one of the rules of business, which is everything takes longer than you think. Everything takes longer. So I started off with really, I might have had one client at the time, and I thought I'll just get more clients, and it doesn't work that way.
As we dive into your journey of your business.
Well, that sounds good. I have no shortage of talking points, so don't worry about that. I've got you covered. Actually, I started my career working at Princeton University and then working at the University of Pennsylvania. Now, that was a unique experience. It was right after my master's degree. I think I was 26 when I started working at Princeton, and we were doing academic research. We're actually doing research on AIDS prevention among minority youth. And actually, first it was in the state of New Jersey, and then we moved over, and I got to lead the project, which was about 800 kids. It was about a $5 million project. And in leading that project, that's where I discovered that I really like the business side. So I was able to get more into that. And then I enjoyed it so much when I really felt that my capacity of learning, I kind of end in these projects. I then moved over and I started doing some consulting work for a consulting company at that time. And then I eventually...
What time frame are we talking about?
This was talking around 2000.
Okay.
Yeah, around 2000. So yeah, I discovered that I had a real talent for it and a real passion for it. So I ended up working with a small company that were just starting. I was the first employee, actually. It was only the owner. He had wanted to hire someone to try and get things moving. So bright guy, Al Bullock, he owns a company called Kayla Creative. Then it was called Jada Creative. But Al's a very bright guy because he understood his limitations. And he wanted someone to come in there on the operations side to help. So that's when and that was my daughter was just born. So that was 2001 that I started working with Al. And we worked together for probably 6-7 years, something like that. Then I got a job at a church in the ministry. And I was what you call in the role of what's called an executive pastor. So that executive pastor role is generally only found in large churches. This church had about 1,600 people who attended each. Large church. Usually you won't find an executive pastor role in churches under 1,000. Usually. When it starts to make sense around 750 people, somewhere around there. There, I was in charge of all the administration. It's like a COO role in business, right? It's they call it executive pastor, but there's really no pastoral duties. It's really all operations, right? So that was a really good opportunity for me to put into practice things that I've been learning. I stayed there for a few years, had a few more similar jobs to that. I'll accelerate through. And then I actually started there in 2010, which is the same year I started Foundations Business Consulting, right? So I have been working part-time at Foundations from then until about 3 years ago. So about 3 years ago, I was with a manufacturing firm. My title was Vice President of Shared Services, but it was still more like that COO role. And they were doing, I think when I got there, they were doing about $25 million a year. And then when I left, we were doing about $30 million a year. And I think now they're doing about $40 million a year. So they've really grown. And I hope that some of the things that I instituted there are maybe some of those reasons why.
So were you doing that in tandem with still CEO of Foundations?
Yes. That's Foundations since 2010. And I've had clients the whole time since 2010. So what I do is based off of my experience, right? So everything we do at Foundations, I like to tell clients, we're not guessing, right? We're not hoping that this stuff works, but it's worked. We know it works through doing it over and over and over again. So what Foundations is really a systems firm. Systems design is often associated with engineering or with IT, but we're a systems design firm or an operations systems design firm. Meaning that if you go to almost any company, whether it's a for-profit or a nonprofit, or we work with churches, then if you ask them, what is your system for doing almost anything? Uh, Most of the time, not going to be a system. Most of the time, it's if they're having failure, it's based off of the person in that position, right? So if that person leaves, they get a new person. Now because they don't have any system, now it's based off this next person's abilities, whether they are good at maneuvering through. Well, we've discovered that when you have a system, and we've created systems for everything that we do. So you can use our system as a template. You can use it as it is. But I've also discovered in my travels that if your company's in New York City, it might be a little different than if it's in Arkansas. So not everything can be totally adopted, but we have to adapt based on who you are.
Yeah.
Right? Based on what your company does. And that's what we do is we adapt based on who you are, but we have systems in place that are there to help you grow. And we work with the operations leaders how they can do their work more effectively, and the whole business grows. I'll be quiet. One other thing about that we've discovered is that in leadership, there's two types of leaders. There's what we call the visionary leaders, usually those people who have great vision and they tell you and they inspire you. And then there's the operations leaders. And the operations leaders are the ones that take the vision and make the vision happen. You need both of those in order to have a successful organization. People with just vision and operations ability, well, they stop at the level of their operations, which is why we have so many businesses that are struggling, because they're usually led by visionaries, but the organization, the success stops when their level of operations expertise, which is usually not very high. So we have tons and tons and tons of small that aren't going anywhere. So I got plenty more to.
So then you step in like the offsite pastry chef and bridge that gap, so to speak.
There you go. We bridge the gap you are and where you want to be, right?
Yeah.
You have a grand vision, you can't get there, and it's always because the operations can't keep up. So it has proven to be true dozens and dozens of times with various clients in many industries that work. It's always the case that the vision stops because the operations can't keep up. And often the operations can't keep up because people are running around like a chicken without a head. They're always putting out having a plan to move forward. And the people who are leading have so little time to think strategically because they're always putting out fires that it's very, very tough to grow. When you're always putting out, very, very tough. So we come show you a better way, a better system, and now you can adopt this system or adapt this system to your environment. And now, wow, we ask questions that you thought of before. We have experience, so things over and over and over. I had some clients say something like, "But Anthony, we're not like your other. We're very unique." And I learned to say, "You're right. You are unique, just like everybody else."
I love that quote. I use that all the time.
Yeah.
I'm unique and special to everybody else.
Yes. Everybody's
don't tell yourself, overdo it.
That's right.
So going back to 2000, you're just really getting started in your career in the early stages and really throughout your journey. What have been some of your greatest challenges and how did you overcome them?
Well, I'd say in business, it was probably around 2011 or so that I just started foundations, very excited about it, and I wanted to do foundations full time. So I started doing foundations full time. And that turned out to be a disastrous mistake for me because I didn't understand one of the rules of business, which is everything takes longer than you think. Everything takes longer. So I started off with really, I might have had one client at the time, and I thought I'll just get more clients, and it doesn't work that way, right? So before I starved, I got a job, right? And started working again. But this time around, after being in business for at the time about I had family on a firmer foundation financially, and one guy I listened to on the radio, he says, why is it start a business? They go out and they make less money. He said, why don't you do this? Why don't you make more money when you leave your job and start your business instead of less? And frankly, I'd never heard that before. And I said, boy, that's a good idea. I think I'll do that. So I signed contracts enough where I was making more money when I left my job and started my business. And that way, we've been able to sustain ourselves, even though we've had ups and downs, of course. But when I left, I said, well, I'm going to make more money when I leave, not less. And that way, here we are 3 years later, and hopefully, I'll talk to you again in 5 more years, and we'll be more and more successful because we started it much better than starting at zero, which is what I find a lot of entrepreneurs do.
Refreshing way to approach it. Yeah, most entrepreneurs quit their job. I'm going to just put my nose to the grindstone, and you're in poverty or low. Your expenses are higher than what you're taking in.
Yeah, they hope for the best. That is unsustainable, right? So we're making more money. And plus, we follow some financial rules for our family. So we actually got out of debt, paid our house off even. And it's funny when you're out of debt and you don't even have a house payment, how you don't need nearly as much money. So even when we've had our slower times in the business, it's been okay because we don't have any debt. And I recommend that to all clients. Most don't listen, but because it's a better way. It's just a better way to do business. And that's really what we're all about, is finding what system is going to work for you to reach your goals. Some things people want to do because they're hard, but it certainly works out well.
And your clients, who are your clients? It looks like up to 5 million is kind of like you're looking for.
That's who our main client is. And it also turns out that over 90% of the businesses in America are less than 5 million as well. So it's not at all putting us at a disadvantage, but it does help our clients about who we serve best. Now, I have had clients who are more than 5 million, and they have some of the same issues as our clients with less than 5 million. But I find that the clients less than 5 million are more willing to make the necessary changes. Believe it or not, when you reach a certain level, it's a little bit harder to want to all these changes. But less than 5 million, you're still setting the systems up, right? You really don't have any kind of HR, anything, right? I don't really know what I'm doing I really know what we're doing in our financial area or our strategic planning, or yes, it's early enough to make sure that the culture is a good, and it's all these things that we really help the organization with, and now we can set them up for success. When they follow our processes, they have just tremendous success. And like I said, not based off of so I don't have an MBA. I didn't go to business school, but I've helped dozens and dozens of organizations to more than most of the organizations that work with me and follow the plan. Most of them within a year have doubled their revenue. Now that's
phenomenal.
It is phenomenal. I've had clients who tripled their revenue. My last client who I was working with, now they so it wasn't that hard, but they tripled their revenue. But I've also had where 3 million and now it's 6 million. I've had clients that were at 2 million and now at 4 million. But usually in about a year, because the fundamentals, we call our business foundations. The other title I was considering was fundamentals, right? Because your fundamentals, just like if you want to play basketball, what do you learn first? You should learn, right, before you can go out there and shoot like whoever the NBA star is. You need to learn the fundamentals, and that's what we cover. The foundations are: what are the fundamentals? What are that you need to know, and what are the systems? How do you set each one of those up? And once you do that, you're like, okay, now your employees are happier. Now you are not in tons of debt. Now you understand what your IT structure is. Now you know what your goals are for the future, and you have plans to achieve those goals. You can't do everything. But what I've told several of my clients is we're not, because we have Chat GPT now, give you a lot of information. And before we had Google, we still have Google, but people use Google to get all the information you need. So we're not here to give you information. We're here to tell you what works, right? You don't need more information. You need to know which part of that information actually works. Otherwise, you'll be wasting your time over here on stuff that there's no evidence that it works. Where the stuff that we help with, we have evidence after evidence after evidence that it works, not only by our revenues by like I worked with one organization they had about 6 leaders there, who were supervising teams, and one of those leaders accounted for at least 80% people who quit. So obviously,
that's a bad apple.
Yeah, it's very bad. So we obviously need to take care of that, right? So with them, one of the things we did was we really concentrated on the culture of the organization. And once we were able to turn that around, well, that leader went to a different position where he didn't supervise people anymore, but helped the company in other ways. We got people in there who really cared about their team and was able to, not that he didn't care, that's probably the wrong word, but had the skill set in order to work with people. And now things have totally turned around for them. They're not hiring so many people.
And that 80% guy, he's happier in his new position. And
yeah, he's happy. I mean, he didn't get fired. It was just a bad and not a fit for everybody, right? Which is why what we start off with, every client that we start off with the DISC assessment, DIC. A lot of heard of it, but it's a behavioral assessment. And at Foundations, we created our own DISC assessment because some things missing from the DISC assessments that were out there, I didn't like them, right? They didn't have the answers that I wanted. So we created our own assessment that we use with all of our clients to really help our clients understand their behavior and understand how their behavior affects others in the organization. And if it's a supervisor, what we like to do is also do the DISC assessment with each of their team members so that their team members can understand their supervisor and understand one another, because it really helps tremendously with not only the culture of the organization, but even who you hire, right? There's certain people, I don't know, how familiar are you, Rudy, with the DISC assessment?
I was just going to ask, I not heard.
Okay.
Is that an acronym?
Yeah, well, it's sort of an acronym. The D, the S, and the stand for something, but it's not a title, right? Like the D is for those who are okay. The I is for it's really for people like people who are, the S is like for who are steady, like to have, they don't like a lot of arguments, right? For those who are, it's called conscientious, but it's really those who are more analytical are C's. And depending on what your DISC profile is, so let's take someone who's a DI, someone who's dominant and who's the I, which is escaping me right now. People like them. That is going to be a big picture thinker, a visionary thinker, right? So if you get someone, and let's say you're hiring for an accountant, someone who's a DI, even if they have all their qualifications and think they want to be an accountant, would be a terrible accountant because DIs think big picture. They don't think details. So when they hand you your monthly your monthly reports, they might be kind of general. Well, in the bank, somewhere around there. That's not helpful for you, and they really would hate it as well. So we want to get the right person with the right DISC assessment in the right position, and that's something that we help all of our clients with because it's one of the things that, and to me, one of the most important, which is why we to help shape your organization and for you to understand who you are, how you come across to people, and why there are some people that we just don't get along with as well right away, right? They may have someone who's a high D, for instance. They mind having what others would call argument. They just who's a high S doesn't want to have that discussion. They want peace. They don't want to debate with you. So when the high D, someone who's high D is always wanting to debate a high S, oil and water, and it doesn't mix. So instead of you thinking, oh, there's something wrong with it, instead of each of them thinking there's something wrong with that person, they both can now understand, oh, based on their behaviors, this is how they respond to me. And now we can
love language, those love language books, and I've done similar assessments with different titles for the personality type.
Right. But this came out seemed like it came out around 30 years ago, maybe. And it was made particularly for business, right? It was helps, and it does. I think it's very effective.
And for our audience, is there a general place that you can go to take one of these assessments? I mean, I'll go to you.
Yeah, you can go to me. Take one for probably wouldn't go to me because we charge for ours. But you can just put in DISC assessment, DISC assessment, and you'll find free one. Right, so it's problem. You know, one of the things that we like about the free one is they might tell you what the highest categories you score in are, but where are you on the other categories? And that's one thing that we wanted to improve, because if you come back as that DI, well, what about your S and how does that affect your behavior as well? And generally, the ones that are free online, they don't tell you about where you are with the other letters, only with your highest one or two letters. So we want to get into the whole person. So that's why ours is it's a bit longer than the ones that you'll find for free, and it's much more detailed. The response you get from us, and there's a coaching session as well.
Relative to your outcome. So right. To know yourself and to have your team have a better understanding of you. When did you weave DISC into your practice? I
have been using it probably for 5 years. I've been using it quite a bit. I discovered the probably 2008 or so, and when I first took the DISC, I said, "Boy, this is a bunch of nonsense," right? It's because I didn't buy it at first. But then as I thought about it, I may have taken it again, and I could see, oh, okay, there is value here. And if we understand what it really means, great value there. And I just had some clients, they were on our entrepreneur, and I usually like to start with it, but they were really, they were hot and heavy in another area that we needed to start where they are really most passionate about. So we didn't do the DISC until about halfway through. But once we did they said, oh wow, this is it was in their opinion, it was the best 6 coaching sessions for them. But it was the best part of our 6 coaching sessions to understand who they were, and it explained so much, because we all wonder, boy, why am I like that? Why do I do right? There's some things we like that we do, and other things you're like, eh.
There was a quote in your website that I really loved. It says, you add value, we add capacity, clients love that. And what is one of your favorite ways to add value to your clients? I think that DISC thing is wonderful, but is there anything else that you're like, this is one of my favorite areas of adding value?
Yeah, what I really love doing is helping people to kind of turn more. when we watch the comic strips and the light bulb, to really have those light bulbs would bring me the most joy. There are some things that maybe you never thought of, that because of working with so many different organizations, we see it right away, right? So we see right away why this isn't working. And you've been struggling with it and trying to figure it out. And we simply tell you, well, let's try it this way. Because if you try it this way, this, and this will happen. And they do it and they see it. And I never thought of that. And depending on your behavioralist and whether you're a visionary, administrative, or operations leader, there's something you never see, right? You may never see some things because it's just not your will set. Right? It's not your wheelhouse. So we can come in and we can show you things and people are like, wow, it's so simple. And usually the best things are simple. Whenever it's wrong, you're doing it wrong. It needs to be simple. So we add value by simplicity, by bringing understanding, by showing you a better approach to whatever it is you're trying to solve, which is really what it comes down to, again, is we are a systems design firm. We bring in the system that you didn't understand. And it is a whole system. It's never one thing. It's usually about a half dozen things that you start doing differently. And once you start doing those things differently, the results are exponential, right? It's exponential.
I've never used this term, but it just came to me talking. Curator's righteousness.
Okay. All right.
Just being in right relationships and
yeah.
If you're in a righteous situation, there's no discord.
Right.
It's like I've got some messy situations going on in my financial business partner took a significant ride and I'm dealing with it. I was just go to God like, here, I got this mess. Thank you for being a God of detangling life.
Wow. Yes, and that's a good way to put it. And yes, and there's with blessings, there's no sorrow, right? And that is, we do run businesses in chaos. We don't have to run it not understanding how to do things well. I think anything, and I love that all my clients are not Christians. I am working in a church. People can guess that, at least, I hope they, right? But all my clients are not Christians, but I do enjoy, there is this relationship when I'm working with clients that are Christian, because now we can talk about the truth behind all of this. One thing about everything we do. So I'll tell you how I put these systems together. So back in 2004, I started around that time. First, when I started consulting, well, that was before my consulting practice, but I did some other consulting then, not foundations. But I discovered that working with organizations then, that people have to feel like they're a part of change. Otherwise, it'll never work, right? So I started writing trainings. So I wrote a bunch of trainings that I thought were pretty good, and they were pretty good. And then when I started working in the church in 2008, I felt challenged to take those trainings and run them through the Word of God to see if they agreed with the Word of God. And most did, but some didn't. And the ones that didn't, I threw those out. I don't remember what they were. And the ones that did, I went through those to be sure that every point I made could be found in Scripture. So what people who are Christians, I have this conversation with, and they understand that. Not Christians, they may not understand really why these trainings work so well. The reason our trainings, our coaching, and our consulting most is because the foundation is right. The foundation is the Word of God. So if the foundation is the Word of God, well, it's going to work out for you. So I'm not surprised at the success people have. Sometimes they're surprised at how successful they are.
Have you had opportunity as they come into alignment and making them aware of like the deeper spiritual connection? Like, how do you weave the gospel or, business to like I don't always cross.
Yeah, it is tough. And I always have a conversation about God. I would say that all of my clients are not Christian, but they all are gospel. None of them are hostile to the gospel either, right? If they were hostile to the gospel, we wouldn't be able to work together. They may not be Christians, but there's no way that I'm not going to mention God in some part of our journey. It's going to come up. And those who are not Christian, they'll say something respectful, but let's move it on, right? Let's move off.
Yeah.
Who are Christians, they'll want to talk more deeply. So it's my job is to plant the seed, and someone else God will give the increase. So I'm not too caught up in how much they are wanting to know, but I always plant the seed, and then I trust that God will send someone else to water it, and He will make the tree grow. Right? That's up to Him.
There's a reason they highlight seed, because that's just the tiniest little seed of the biggest tree.
Yes.
What we think is insignificant, but it was God's word put out there, how He can take that and grow.
Absolutely.
Good diversion here.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's talking about God's my subject, so let's do it.
Are there any, besides the Bible? Hopefully that's the number one book, of course. Any other books that you want to? That man, this book was just so pivotal for me.
Well, I'm a writer of books, so I've written, I think, 9 books so far. As far as helping organizations, so our mission is done, and we know that several ways to do that. Some people go through our consulting, training, coaching, and some people read our books. And I would say probably the most critical book that I've written is probably Unstuck and Unstoppable, because it really gives a core of everything we teach.
Great title.
What's that? Oh, thank you. That Unstuck and Unstoppable. But now we have a book called The Nonprofit Board, that if you have a nonprofit, it's a must read, because it's a simple book that tells you everything you need to know about how to run your nonprofit board. Because what we've discovered in nonprofits, the reason that most nonprofits are not more successful has a lot to do with a board that often, it's shocking to say this, but it's true, often people on the board don't even know what the nonprofit does. Now that seems
very timely thing to be bringing up, because I'm just filling out the paperwork for my attorney to get me legitimized as a nonprofit, and I'm like, Mom, sister, will you guys be my board just until I figure out exactly who I want on my board? I just need to get it in there. Can you tell me the name of that book again?
It's called The Nonprofit Board. I wanted to make it real simple, right? So it's called The Nonprofit Board. Find it on Amazon. I think the ebook is $10 or so. But it's based on my experience with boards. I've been on several boards, an executive director or that position, and so the system it helps you design your nonprofit board. And there's so many that it's when you read that book, it's the most my suggestions are the most suggestions that you think of once you, but they must not be so obvious because so many don't do them. I'll give you just one. So when I do some sort of a seminar or with a nonprofit board, I ask the people on the board, if you could raise your hand, how many of you received a job description for your position on this board? Well, you can guess that usually nobody raises their hand. And then I'll say, okay, for those of you who have ever had a job, like a job, how many of you received a job description when you position or before you accepted the position? Everyone raises their hand. So I say, well, why wouldn't you receive a job description for this position on the board? And it's like, once I say it, it becomes super obvious, but it must not have been obvious because no one had a job description before I said it, right? So that's what the book is filled with, those kinds of insights that should be obvious.
I feel like that is 100% for me. If nothing else comes out of this call, I feel like okay, I'm getting the message, God. I'm going to read the nonprofit board.
Yeah.
That lip service to you. That's, I think, as I launch, I've been doing short-term mission for 25 years.
Okay.
And I've channeled the money through different nonprofits, friends of mine, recently through my for about 3 years. And then our lead pastor came to me, is like, we just found out from that this is actually illegal. we can't do it that way anymore. So yeah, so my nonprofits celebrate life.
Okay, all right. And what mission?
My mission is just coming alongside other ministries and kind of similar to your vision or what you're doing. Like, I'm not creating them, I just believe in them and I'm helping support and lift them up. But I've been mainly involved in Cambodia with street kids and orphans.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I don't want to get off on that, but
right.
Yeah,
but no,
I need to work on my mission statement.
Yeah. Yeah. So those are. I know you're probably asking about. So one of the ways God has gifted me is to get straight to the point, to get straight to what works, and not surround others with a lot of fluff. Right. I get right to the heart of the matter, and that's how I things and how I write and how I coach and train people, how I consult, even just get right to the point. Therefore, what other consultants would take 6 weeks to do, we might just do in a week, because my job is not to be here forever. So I find a lot of books. So here's really what it is. My gifting, my leadership ability is much more on the operations side. Probably pretty right. It's much more. It's instead of on the visionary side. I find that most visionaries are the ones who are writing these books. They're the ones who are leading organizations. They're the ones who people look to as leaders, and that's great and that's fine, and they're good at being visionary leaders. However, when a visionary writes a book, and you may have noticed this, and you will once I say it, you'll probably agree. When a visionary writes a book, they'll tell you, these are that you should be doing. You should be doing A, you should be doing B, you should be doing C. Finish reading them and you have no idea how to do those things. Right? This is what I often
like going to a Zig Ziglar type.
Right. It's just
like, you get pumped up and you can do it. You can do it.
Exactly. And so as a person, this is why visionaries need operations people. As a person, I'll tell you what it is you should do, and then I'll take you step by step in how to do it. And that's why I find that a lot of books they're great, they're motivating, but in the end, you don't understand what to do. So what I've had to do over the years, and this has been a great help to me, I've written all of my books. The last 4 books I've written. The nonprofit board we just talked about, Unstuck and Unstoppable. Wrote a book, Transforming Organizations, which is about a book more. It's more of about the blessings and the book of Deuteronomy and how he blessed businesses today by us following his precepts. And then the last book I just wrote is called The World's Worst Supervisor. And that just came out maybe about a month ago. That just came out on Amazon and whatnot. But all of these books, what I've done is I had a visionary person co-author it with me. The first 3, very good friend James Burris, he co-authored that with me. This one of the consultants that works with me, Beverly Pesos, the world supervisor, she co-authored it with me. Now, Beverly has a skill of both visionary and administrative. She's a very unique, but she used her visionary side to kind of help me because honestly, the books I wrote before that are also a little bit boring. I mean, be honest. So they're a little bit boring. These last 4 books and this last one, they keep getting better and better. This last one is actually it's a story. It's called a business parable. So the hero's journey, that period of the hero's journey, but the most famous example of the hero's journey is a little film called Star Wars, right? So people have heard of that, but Star Wars follows the hero's journey way of style of writing. The business parable is similar to that, only no one's trying to kill my hero in the book, right? It's not.
I think it's Pilgrim's Progress.
Right, something like that. But yeah, I find that if I got help me, then the books are much more interesting. And I think, again, proving what we teach at Foundations is that it takes the operation side and the side together to really produce something fantastic.
That is really fantastic. I applaud your ability to pivot. Because my background is in landscape architecture. So, I'm a designer by trade, and it's easy to get stuck in ruts. Out of that rut, it takes some work. So well done.
Yeah, thank you. It does. It takes work, and this is what I'm hoping it will inspire us to do the necessary work. We can't keep doing the same things we've been doing and expect different results. We have to do things differently, and this is why, what I've discovered is that everything doesn't have to cost tons of money. We have different price points. If you can't afford someone to do coaching and someone to do the trainings or to do the consulting, buy the book. Said the most of our ebooks are only $10, right? So if you buy the book, you'll get a tremendous amount of good information that will definitely help you to turn your business around. And if you need a little bit more help, you do the training and the training and the coaching. And if you really need a lot of help, you hire us to do the consulting. And that's depending on where you are. Everybody, because if I was to the way business is done, we know we have to have a way for everyone to participate. And to spend the $10, I really got nothing for you. Maybe they could watch this podcast. Right? So
yeah. Are the books available in hard copy too, or just audio?
Yes, they're hard copy too. And the hard copy, I think the books are around $20. The World's Worst Supervisor is our first hardcover book. And that one is, I think, about $27 or so on Amazon. So that one, we will do a soft cover eventually, but we wanted to start off with hardcover because I think we think it's a classic book for all supervisors since just kind of walking around since. We know that most supervisors are people who are good at what they do, so their boss promotes them to be supervisor. But most supervisors get no training, they get no coaching, they don't really understand their role is even, so they're struggling. So we try and write books. I mean, same reason we wrote the nonprofit board. 100% of the nonprofits, I asked them, do you need help with your board? 100% said yes. So not 99%, right? So I knew, well, this is a book to write. And the same thing with supervisors. Almost no supervisor has ever gotten training on how to be a supervisor. So this book gives you that training on how to be a supervisor.
That's surprising. I mean, that's
shocking.
a pretty broad spectrum of people are supervisors.
Yeah, shocking. The only companies we consistently see people getting supervisors are maybe companies with 10,000 employees, something like that. But again, most, over 90% of the U.S. are $5 million and less. The vast majority of those businesses have no supervisor training. The vast majority. I mean, I don't want to say 100%, but I bet you it's 95 at least % have any kind of supervisor training. So we're trying to fill that gap with something that is entertaining to read, but also has lots of practical instruction on what you can do. I talked to one supervisor and he was having trouble and he said, it's job to help these employees. And I said, it's actually your whole job. That's like your job. That's your whole job to help the employees. So
You get an F.
minus, right? He thought it was none of his job to help his team members. And I had to let him know, no, it's like your whole job to help.
What a revelatory moment for him.
Yeah. He just didn't know. Hopefully, but I think
about it. Did he?
I think he perceived it. We talked a little bit.
Did the brother repent?
Yeah, we talked a little more, but he really didn't see it. And that's unfortunate that no one ever told him that is your job, because he said all these team members, they keep coming to me complaining about needing help and about, he's so busy doing his work. Right? He had work to do. So he's work. I don't have time for you to come and tell me your problems. Right? I got problems. You figure out your problems, I'll figure out my problems. I said, no, it's your whole job. So yeah, he did improve. It was an organization that I was working with. And I did some supervisor training, and then they actually hired someone to kind of help. This is a rather large company, so they hired an internal person to kind of as well. But they hadn't really thought of that. I got there and had conversations because from the best they can, but that's another example of just not understanding what his role is. And so many of us in business, we don't know what we should be doing, so we're doing something else.
So much unawareness.
Yeah.
Gotta sometimes step in and flip that switch. There's one question I always ask, usually at the end.
Okay.
Now, I believe in magic, but just for the purpose of this, I could reach through the screen here and give you a magic wand that you could wave, solve the biggest headache, like the thing that keeps you up at wake. Maybe there isn't anything that keeps you up at night, but like the one thing that you're thinking about all the time, what if I could help that could be solved? What is that challenge?
Well, let's see. The challenge in business that I wish could be solved immediately.
That you're like your particular situation, you're running your business, not others.
Okay. All right.
Like,
well, particular challenge in business, I do know that immediately. So we get most of our business through word of mouth, and that's worked out okay. But about a year ago, I felt challenged to expand the business so I can more people. When it's just me helping people, I can only help here, maybe. But I wanted to do more. So now since I starting January 1st through the end of September, we spent those 9 months really putting the trainings that we have now online, setting up our coaching program, concretizing more of our consulting so that I could bring other people with me, and so that we can more organizations. And the thing that we need most at Foundations is for people to know who we are, right? For people to understand that we exist, that this sort of thing exists, because it's interesting to me as I talk to people about it, how many people say, I didn't even know anything like that existed. I didn't know there were companies out there who could help us like that. I said, okay, so we need that help. Now, I've got a few salespeople, and they're out there pushes trying to get people to know, but as an operations guy, not a visionary guy, I don't have that ability visionary people have to get the word out there. But I know I'm trying to partner with some of those visionary guys, because I noticed that they get the word out there, they'll get 100 people in a room, and then they don't have anything of substance to talk about, right? So they get the 100 people in a room, and I'll do the talking, and then we can help them. So that's the magic wand, I'd say, just so more people would know about us, more people know this exists, and so that the people in the organizations didn't have to be so frustrated. Because what's happening out there, Rudy, is not that companies are going out of business so much. It's even worse, probably, that they're staying in business and everybody's miserable, right? That's probably worse than going out of business. To be in business, but everybody hates working there.
And there's just way too much of that. 70+% are not happy in the workplace.
Right.
That's a massive chunk of your life. And
yes.
If we could all band together and help that number down.
Yes. And that's a big part of why we do this, because we want to help people who are in that situation. And remarkably, I seem to attract people who've been in those situations, but maybe that's been in that situation, right? And working with me at Foundations is, I said, this is not a place where people will abuse you. This is a place, first, because I know your DISC assessment. First thing I'm going to do is put you in a position that you love, your dream position. So my people are very loyal because they know it's their dream position. Second reason is because we only have 2 values here at Foundation. And I say we're never going to have 3. We're always going to have 2. And the 2 values are, no one is allowed to have any ego, including me. And the second thing is, all of us allow others to help us with our blind spots. And I picked those 2, Rudy, because those 2 are the main reasons most companies are the way they are. That people hate it because the boss has massive ego and the boss has no blind spots as far as he or she's concerned. But we all have ego and we all have blind spots. And if we humble ourselves and if we allow others to help us, because, hey, I know my DISC assessment and I know your DISC assessment, and you're much better at that than me. Naturally, you're just built for that and I'm not. So I let people do the things they're built for, and I just stick with the things that I'm really good at. And now everybody's happy, but I still take your input because you might still see something that I don't see. And this is how I tell all my team members that I want us to grow substantially, not necessarily because, I want us to be big, but the reason is I want others to see what your organization should look like. These are what your team members should be like. They should be happy. They should work. They should love to come to work. The boss should be humble enough to listen to things. So I want us to be an example of what organizations should look like. And my team members are all for it. But that's a long answer to your question. What do we need? We need people to know about us so that we can change the way business is done.
Love it. I know that I've enjoyed this time because we're over 60 minutes and it feels like we've been on the call for like 10.
Yeah.
Did you know we're over an hour?
I don't even know what time it is. Oh, I do have a little
I don't like to be tied to it. I do want to respect your time and wrap up here. Really appreciate your enthusiasm for what you do. Have the same mindset that we didn't just spend an hour looking at each other on a computer screen. We invested an hour. Who knows what it turned out to be? I'm reaching out, shaking your hand.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Anthony.
Well, thanks, Rudy. I really enjoyed it and look forward to talking again.